Our next artist we're going to talk about is named Courtney Egan. So you can see her exhibit right here in the list. And then enter the virtual exhibition. And Courtney, she uses her artwork to talk about our relationship to plants and how that's different in the modern world than it was in the past. So I'm going to go ahead and walk right over here on the left to our first artwork, which is called Extinct in the Wild. And let's just look at it for a moment, let it play out. I want you to think about one word that comes to mind when you look at this artwork. How about you, Miss Vivian? What's one word you think of when you see this artwork?
You know, I think colorful. There's a bunch of different colors in the flowers. They're all pretty bright.
I see. And how does that, like, with the background, how does those colors impact with that dark background?
Oh, it sticks out a bunch, and it makes it seem very, very important because it's on such a dark background.
Yeah, okay. What about, take a minute, think about the movement. How does the movement make you feel? How about you, Miss Vivian?
I think it feels very calm and peaceful. It looks almost like it's like windy, or they're just kind of blossoming or blooming in there.
Okay, I want you at home to imagine that you are holding some flowers, and I want you to pose like how you would do that. I'll give you a little bit of time to do that. How about you, Miss Vivian? If you were holding some flowers, how would you look? So how is the way that you're holding your flowers different than this artwork?
Mine, the flowers would be going straight up, but Courtney's in this one, she's going it upside down.
Interesting. Why do you think there's that difference? What does that make you feel like?
I think with the name, with extinct, it makes it seem like they're almost like dead, or they're alive but they're dead. They're still like opening. But they're dead.
So I think if you're holding flowers straight upright, that's kind of a caring way to hold some flowers, right? And you're being careful with them and keeping them off the ground.
Yes.
And this feels kind of careless.
Yeah.
Just kind of dragging them along behind like we don't really care what happens to them.
Yeah, she could drop it any second.
So this artwork, I'm just going to replay our loop there so we can watch it. So this artwork is called Extinct in the Wild, and it's a plant called the angel's trumpet, which is native to South America. And the people who lived in South America, they would grow and take care of this plant for thousands of years. And then when European explorers started to come along and they discovered it, they started to take it for themselves. And the thing is that this plant is now, like the name suggests, extinct in the wild, which means it only exists where people have planted it. It does not grow naturally anywhere anymore. In South America, they would use this plant for spiritual purposes and for medicine, but the European explorers more just kind of liked how it looked. And so, because people were careless with it, kind of like this hand is being careless in the image, we don't have it in the wild anymore. Let's move to our next artwork.
All right, so we're going to be looking at another artwork with the same similar ideas, just a different flower. So go ahead and just take a look at that. We'll watch it together. And think of, what's one thing you think of when you look at this piece? I'll just give us a little bit and we'll think of a word that we think of. What do you think, Miss Carrie? What do you think of this piece?
I think sad.
Sad. Why do you say sad?
It feels sad to me, even though, yellow's kind of a happy color, but a lot of the branches kind of feel like they're drooping and wilting. And something about that dark background and the way that, some of it is submerged into the background, it feels kind of sad and mournful to me.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So when we're looking at this one, we can also notice that there are some hands or arms in there as well. How are these different from the hands in the last piece we just saw?
Well, I noticed these hands are a lot more subtle. I know I thought they were branches at first when I first saw this, but they actually look like arms. And they're a lot smaller, and they kind of look like they're struggling to hold on to these plants.
Yeah.
And the plants are doing whatever they feel like.
Yeah, exactly. So Courtney Egan, she made those arms out of ceramic clay. So these are actually just kind of molds of her own arms, which is kind of cool. And this piece is called Self-Fulfilling Prophecy, which means when you make something happen, basically by believing it will happen. Yeah, so an example of that would be if you say that you're bad at math and like you just really believe that you might be bad at math, so maybe you don't try as hard and then you don't do good on a test. That's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you have any examples of your own, that's awesome too. So if you have an example, think of one right now. Okay, but this piece has a different flower, like we said earlier. This one is called Cat's Claw, and almost the exact opposite of the last one. This one is an invasive plant to North America, which means that someone from somewhere else brought it to somewhere that it was not originally, which means that it just goes crazy and grows everywhere, takes over houses, and does whatever it wants, because nothing that lives there actually eats it or does anything with it. So if we watch, we can even look, and we'll include some photos of it taking over a house and just how crazy they can get. But one thing to think about, if it's so dangerous and it doesn't belong here, why do you think that people brought it here? Now, so take a second to think about that. If it's so dangerous, why do you think people brought it here? What do you think, Miss Kay?
I think sometimes when we want something, we don't stop to really think about what might happen if we get that thing. And I think maybe people just thought that this was a pretty plant and they'd like to have it in their front garden. And they didn't really realize what would happen by taking it somewhere where it's not supposed to be.
Yeah.
It's kind of like they just didn't think about the consequences of what would happen when they did that. Have you ever done something without really thinking about the consequences and what happens?
You know, there was one time I was bringing treats for my birthday, and they had peanuts in them. It was peanut brownies, and someone had a peanut allergy, so no one could have them. And that was a time I did not think of the consequences of that before.
Thank you so much for watching our tour, and we're going to be leading a cool art activity for you guys next.